Hi, I'm James Bennett, OAM, and I've been on the committee for Newcastle Business Club from 1998 to 2005, where I was the Sergeant at Arms. I was seconded by a former past president, Joe Key, and Joe was a very significant character with the business club, and he insisted that I should be a member of the club, and I was pretty pleased with his suggestion because I really enjoyed my time at Newcastle Business Club. My role as Sergeant at Arms was to make sure everything was in place before our luncheon meetings. We used to carry these huge suitcases with everybody's names tagged in, and they were made of timber. They weighed half a tonne. So when I first joined the club, we were having our meetings at the Diamond Motel on Newcastle foreshore. Then we moved to Noah's on the beach, and then we moved down to Town Hall before we came to Elizabeth Street on the King's Wharf. And everywhere we went, we carried these huge suitcases with everybody's names tagged. However, the role just didn't finish there. We had to make sure everything was in place, the tables were set, the menu was in place, and it was very important to make sure that our guest speaker was there, to do the PR with the guest speaker, get the guest speaker to the table, and the introduction of the guest speaker. And after that, my role was over. I could sit back and relax, and we had to pack up all the wooden cases again with everybody's names tags and then lug them back to a safe repository. I enjoyed my time on the executive Newcastle Business Club. Went through 5 presidents, and every one of those presidents had their own unique character, their own unique style, and it really made our board meetings interesting. We had some interesting characters on the board, from Joe Key to Carl Ross. Carl Ross was a multi-millionaire who loves to steal after dinner mints. But they were wonderful characters. And I also had the pleasure of being on the board when we had our first female president, Fiona Glenn, now called her maiden name, Fiona Honson. But the meetings were good. We really planned ahead. We planned guest speakers at least 6 or 7 months in advance, and then we all tried to outdo each other on who we could get to come as our guest speaker. I had some wonderful times during my career with Newcastle Business Club, particularly as Sergeant at Arms. We had some really interesting characters. We had Professor Ron Brosnan, who was at Newcastle University, and he was very, very prominent in brass bands. He actually conducted Newcastle Brass, and on one occasion we actually had Ron bring his Newcastle Brass band to the business club. And let's just say it was a loud luncheon meeting. Most of the neighbours really knew that we had Newcastle Brass in the building. There was a dear lady who, unfortunately I cannot remember her name, but she came for many, many, many years, and she did not miss a meeting. And on her 85th birthday, we thought we've got to do something special for this lovely lady. So we did a very, very special birthday party just for her. And I think Bob Carr was our premier at that particular meeting, and he was our guest speaker, and he went over and congratulated her, which I thought was a wonderful gesture for a politician to do. You know what I mean? And then again, why wouldn't a politician do a wonderful gesture like that? But speaking of politicians, we had many politicians come and speak to us during my time at the business club. We had Nick Greiner, and as I said, Bob Carr, and we had a lot of local politicians that came, and we even had the local government, John McNaughton. He was a former president of Newcastle Business Club, but you could always bet that John would be there, and John would be one of those characters that if something wasn't right, he let everybody know, this is not right, we better get this in order before we continue on. But I admire John for that, because he stood up to his morals, he stood up to his principles. During my time at the business club, I only had one embarrassing moment, because annually we used to have our photos taken of the committee by young Eddie. Everybody knew young Eddie in Newcastle, and somebody forgot to tell me, possibly my PA, whose name was Trevor, that Today we're having the photos taken. So, of course, I was casual that day, had a Hawaiian shirt on, and it was really embarrassing. Didn't know what to do, didn't have time to go home, didn't have time to change clothes. So we did the best. The barman loaned me his purple tie, which goes really well with a Hawaiian shirt. Somebody else loaned me their jacket that I think was 4 sizes too big for me, but we fudged it, we pinned it together at the back, and I sat in the row, and I think somewhere in the archives of Newcastle Business Club is still that photograph of everybody in suits, tailored dresses, and me in a Hawaiian shirt, purple tie, and oversized coat. One of the biggest problems we had in my time was guessing the numbers of attendees who were going to come to luncheon. Every time we thought we got it right, we actually got it wrong. We either had too many or too little. Mostly it was too little, and we'd committed to the caterers for a certain amount of money. And then we went, oh my gosh, I think we're going to have to go down to the RSL, use my guide dog with a chipped enamel mug to make up for the numbers here, because the caterer's definitely going to want to get paid for all of these people who haven't turned up. However, I think our biggest day was one where we really cut the meals short. I think the chef did great by making every meal a quarter size, because we had Alan Peace as our guest speaker, and Alan Peace was the man who could read your personality through your body language. And we thought, okay, we're going to have a fair turn up with this, so we estimated around about 150 people. However, 230 people turned up for Alan Peace, and it was one of those things where we did have a few complaints. Well, gee, it wasn't a very big meal today, was it? However, Alan Peace made up for it because everybody thought that he was such a great speaker. However, I'm sure there were quite a few embarrassed notaries of Newcastle at that time, because Alan read their personality just perfectly. And I think there were some red faces.
Visit www.newcastlebusinessclub.com.au to learn more.